investor, it is very, very important to understand what is happening in the communities that one is investing in. And of late, I've been reading the newspaper. It's an online newspaper that is called the Business Tech. And they actually put out an article, I think it was mid-November, and they were talking about hijackings in South Africa. And this is around vehicles, right? And you could be wondering, TJ, why are we talking about car hijackings and when we are always talking about property? Well, the reality is that anything and everything that surrounds us as property investors, anything that surrounds properties has a direct impact or potentially an indirect impact on us or on our business. Because remember, whatever that happens in these particular areas where we are investing, it either increases or decreases, number one, the value of our asset, or number two, the potential rental income that we can get from the properties. So in this article, where you can actually find it in the link below, and the article, its heading was hijackings in South Africa's, these are the major trends and hot spots areas. Specifically, I went through that list and it was talking about hijackings, and they were saying that it average in terms of national hijackings, the hijackings have actually grown by 20%. And this has been actually pulled off from the claims data, and obviously they're seeing more and more. But the more I actually read on this, something of importance struck me. What was that? It was a particular area that I actually invest in. So they have the top 30 stations, and this is from the South African police. And out of the stations, all the stations that record hijackings, and obviously there are some hijackings that happen and never get reported. Hopefully, whenever there's a hijacking, it gets reported. Now, in this case here, I am going to look at the top 30. I looked at the top 30, and on number one was Nyanga, Khayelitsha number 2, and it went on and went on. So Western Cape took number 1 and number 2, and Gauteng in Mamelodi kicked in. But I don't invest in these 3 areas, right? But so it kind of like doesn't really faze me quite a lot. It does because obviously at the national level, it impacts me. But I went on to look onto the list, and boom, there is number 20, and one of my favorite areas that I invest in, Kempton Park, is number 20. What a shocker. I actually never thought about it. I actually didn't think that Kempton Park was kind of like on the high risk. If we take all the police stations in the country, to be number 20, that's something to be cautioning about. But why am I worried? Because I've got investments in Kempton Park. That is the reality. So to be on number 20, what do I need to do, or how does this actually affect me? That's the real question. So if they are on number 20, what happened? And if I look at their stats, it basically says that there's been an increase in the last 5 years of round about 57.9%. This is like 58%. So the hijackings has been more and more as the years have been progressing. Okay, so something that I also noticed is the times of the hijackings. And they're saying that specifically, hijackings normally takes through on a Friday at round about noon, and anything at peak between 4 o'clock and 8 p.m. And these are the high times that hijackings happened. So I also just wanted to zoom in a little bit on here in terms of, so how does this affect me as an investor in this area? And I really thought hard about it, and I picked up 3 things. And I'm of the view that wherever you are investing in, this might also affect you. And as a people, we need to take heed. So I'm going to talk to it. So point number 1, in which the way it affects me, I have a strategy in which I look for properties. And that strategy here is called drive around. Drive around is when I actually go out into an area And within that area, I am looking around in terms of where are the properties. And obviously, if I'm driving around, and in this case, I am a target because I am in that area where the hijackers are. So I am at risk at that particular time. So if I understand the times in which these things happen the most, it doesn't necessarily mean that the Monday they are not there or the Tuesday, but they're just basically saying that statistically, they're saying Mondays around 12 o'clock, Mondays between 4 o'clock and 8 o'clock, it's a peak. So what time actually should I be doing my drive arounds? I should avoid Friday, by all means, isn't it? That's what it says if I interpret the stats here. Point number 2 is that I already have properties that I've bought in Kempton Park. So for me to be able to give a sense of security to my tenants that are already on the property, what do I do? Because this information, my tenants as well are reading it. Maybe some of them might want to move away from Kempton Park into another area because crime is at a high. It's becoming a high in this particular area in terms of hijackings. It is my responsibility as the landlord to make sure that the properties that I've got, the security that I need to provide is beefed up. So if I didn't have secured gates on the properties, I think it's high time I need to think about this. If I didn't have alarms and things like that, or if I didn't have communications with my tenant, this is the information that I need to give them. So on my monthly statement, I can drop a little message to them and I can say, hi guys, did you actually know that in the area, this is happening? So be cautious when you're driving. What are the 5 tips that you can do to avoid being hijacked? That will be beneficiary to my tenants, isn't it? So it's just a value add that I'm giving to my tenants. The third tip, or should I say the third way in which it affects us is that when actually can I go for viewings, right? So we spoke about the drive arounds. So drive arounds is I'm scouting for properties. And here I'm talking about the actual viewing, and I've got, because the reason why I actually started talking about viewings is that viewing is, it's an interesting concept, because many a times what you do is that, bearing in mind, right, when you're going to see a property, you're going to drive in your own car. When you're driving in your own car, the estate agent typically is also going to drive in their car. And as a property investor, you also want to be driving in with your builder. So which means that by the time you get to a particular property, let's say this is Long Street in Kempton Park, I used to have a couple of properties in there, I don't have them anymore. I can have 3 cars all parked on the one property. So if this area is a hijacking area, you tell me what it means for the hijackers at that particular time. 3 cars. We all know what happens when I don't want to say developers, or when builders are driving with you. They are normally driving in with their backies, isn't it? If I also look into the stats, backies are also something that, you know, the thieves, the hijackers are hijacking extremely well. So if I think of it from a perspective of I am the one who's going out to these properties and I am viewing, I want to avoid a Friday because I could be giving them manna from heaven. 3 cars that they can hit with 1 stone. Bearing in mind that when you are viewing a property, you are actually going into a property and you are there maybe for about 15, 30 minutes. It literally takes maybe 2 minutes for these guys to hijack a car, right? So Fridays, I'm going to avoid that. Fridays afternoon, I'm going to avoid that. Maybe I'm going to go like a Monday. Hopefully they've hijacked someone on a Friday and they've been paid on a Saturday, Sunday, so they're heavily babblized. So Monday is my day of viewing. I'm just thinking of it in a random way. I mean, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. But at least I'm thinking of how can I guard against myself from what is happening. What I'm doing is interpreting the data that is readily available, right? It's about taking risk and managing the risk. And if this information has been helpful to you, well done, and pass it on to other people. And if you haven't subscribed, this is the time to subscribe. My name is Hijack, and it's been great hanging out with you. God bless. Cheers. Goodbye.